peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
From 1992 in Kenya, elections have always been divisive in the form of violence, in the form of malpractices, in the form of all types of gerrymandering that has led to chaos that we have seen that has engulfed this country since independence. The biggest obstacle of the Kenyan elections is a very simple way out. The obstacle is we have never changed the forest. We have changed monkeys in the forest. If you want to cure the Kenya elections, you get a cure, a permanent cure for the Kenya elections. Change the forest. The monkeys will not come to that new forest. Reforms and reforms have been done around the Kenyan elections. Rules, regulations, laws. Are these laws enforced anyway? The answer is no. Most of the people break it, go with it, create chaos after they have not been punished. So the basis of the BBI is to interrogate the chapter, the seriousness of why elections produce violence every 5 years. Why do people fight? Yes, someone would say they are linked with tribal cocoons that conduct themselves or take part in the elections. The answer could be clearer, nearer there. But the solution, therefore, to safeguard, even if it is tribal. South Africa has got the biggest tribe, the Zulu. But still there are safeguards in South Africa that have safeguarded an election. That the Zulus don't dominate the entire South Africa because the electoral systems are safeguarded by principles and institutions. The institution of elections in Kenya and in many African countries has always been the product and has always been an institution that produces violence. Everywhere on the continent, you see electoral commissioners confused in reading their election results. Some of them don't even know the results. Some of them don't know how many votes were garnered by both parties. To avoid this mess, Kenya needs to look completely and put emphasis on the electoral reforms that are needed so that in 2022 there is no violence in the elections that will be conducted. For this reason, therefore, I would urge the chairman of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Chebukati, to say bye-bye, because he has held several controversial elections that we have seen, including under his auspices, one election nullified in the history of Africa. Thank you very much, viewers. Today, thousands and thousands of Africans and many countries in Africa have conflicts. Notably, from Libya, Cameroon, Nigeria, Biafra, and Boko Haram, to Democratic Republic of Congo, of where we have seen a resurgence of the past military and conflicts coming back in that country. Hundreds and hundreds of people have been displaced, killed, maimed, tortured, raped, several of them dying of hunger, starvation, and other natural causes. The fighting seems not to be ending. For the sake of Libya, the Libyan recognized international government is under siege in Tripoli from another faction recognized by Egypt, France, UAE, and other countries. Whereas the one in Tripoli is recognized by the UN, it has been bombarded, has been strangulated, and many millions of Libyans are dying of hunger, lack of water. The water system has been cut off. The bombardment goes on.
This has caused financial hardship to dairy farmers. As part of my intent and pledge to milk farmers, I have given 3 very practical directives. 1, I have directed the National Treasury to release 500 million shillings to the new KCC to purchase excess milk from farmers and to convert this milk into powder for future use. 2, I have also directed the National Treasury to release a further 575 million shillings to the new KCC for 2 milk plants, one in Nyeri and another in Uhuru, to enhance their processing capacity. In sum, my intent is to boost the milk industry with 1 billion Kenya shillings in the immediate run as a way of supporting their efforts. We have also said that in order to protect our milk producers from illegal imports, I have also directed the National Treasury to impose a 16% VAT tax on all milk products that have originated from outside the EAC, the East African Community, and I have further directed KEBS, Customs, and the DCI to impound any powdered milk or milk products that does not meet our Kenyan standards. With regard to potatoes, banana, and rice farmers, all of these who have been blessed with a bumper harvest as a result of the rains, and because their products are perishable in nature, they suffer immense losses when they cannot sell them on time. As part of my intent and support to producers of perishable goods, again, I have issued 2 very practical directions. I have directed that the National Treasury release 300 million shillings to the Micro and Small Enterprise Authority for the construction of cold storage and processing facilities in Meru, Nyandarua, and Kisii. 2, I have directed that the National Treasury release a further 660 million shillings to the Kenya National Trading Corporation to purchase all the excess rice from Kano Plains in Nyanza and also Moya for onward selling to our disciplined forces, prison services, as well as to our boarding schools. The 2 regions have experienced bumper harvests and found them with excess rice in their stores. With regard to the entertainment industry, producers in the entertainment industry are also a critical plank of our economy. Kenyans are indeed highly talented, and the music industry is potentially one of the most lucrative in our country. Hundreds, if not thousands, of our young men and women have invested an incredible amount of effort in the industry, but are getting very low returns from their investment. And we must allow their investments to pay off so that many more can follow them into the industry. And I believe that this way we can do exceptionally well. So therefore, following numerous complaints and indeed in-depth discussions with the industry, today I direct the Ministry of ICT to work with stakeholders to resolve the legacy issues that have plagued rights holders for decades in this country. I am pleased to note that already progress has been made and arrangements have been reached between all the key stakeholders. Indeed, the MOU that was signed on the 20th of December last year proposes a range of measures that will ensure genuine right holders are appropriately compensated for their compositions. Regarding content service providers, my intention and intent is to support the sector using multi-pronged approaches. One, the current sector structure, which comprises of content service providers who work with digital platforms such as Skiza and Viusasa, will be eliminated. And this is because they sit outside the collection management organizations. My practical direction on this is to have all right holders register on the National Rights Registry. To receive royalties, content service providers will be required to channel all payments of royalties through a single, centrally managed account at the Kenya Copyright Board. And this will enable oversight by the regulator and ensure that the collection and distribution accounts are easily auditable. The Kenya Copyright Board, with the assistance of the Ministry of ICT, has already reviewed and agreed on the tariffs for 2020. These tariffs are to be gazetted and will form the basis on which compliance will be monitored. So therefore, in this regard, I direct the Ministry of ICT in consultation with the Attorney General's Office to ensure that this new tariff structure is gazetted within the next 30 days. Further, I direct the Ministry to remove conditions requiring digital platforms to only work through licensed content service providers. This will enable musicians to work directly with platforms such as Skiza. I further direct the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, as well as the Ministry of ICT, to ensure that public service vehicles, the hospitality industry, meaning our hotels, as well as all our broadcasters, including yourselves, meet all their obligations in paying the required tariffs. This will be a basic requirement for renewal of any business licenses for broadcasting houses, matatus, hotels, bars, and other such premises. I believe these new measures will see the rise of tariffs collected and will create immense savings on the processes of collecting royalties. It is estimated that the new system will see an increase in collection for our musicians rise from a previous 200 million shillings per year to an estimated 2 billion shillings per year, a tenfold increase that should see our music industry blossom. Fellow Kenyans, My third intention for the next few months is to provide support to Kenyans afflicted by natural disasters such as the recent floods and the ongoing locust invasion. The unusually heavy rains that have hit the country last year resulted in heavy flooding and landslides, which in turn has caused at least 40 fatalities, displacement of families, loss of livestock, and also health risks. Most counties in the coast, eastern, northeastern, North Rift, Mount Kenya, Western and Nyanza, amongst others, were severely affected. So my administration, in conjunction with development partners, has mobilized funds, asante sana, has mobilized funds and made available 5.2 billion shillings to provide relief food supplies, undertake a resettlement program for displaced communities, support reconstruction of homes that have been destroyed, address health concerns, and reconstruct critical infrastructure, including water supplies. I am indeed closely monitoring the implementation of this disaster recovery operation to ensure that affected households are able to regain some stability as soon as possible. If you have any concerns about the implementation of the program, I would encourage you to share it with your county administration. Fellow Kenyans, with regard to Kenya's health insurance, I am aware of the proposed changes in the fees and structure of insurance benefits by the NHIF. And given my administration's commitment to providing affordable health care, I am today directing the Ministry of Health to immediately halt the implementation of this proposal to allow for further consultation. My fourth intent, fellow Kenyans, speaks to the issue of corruption. Fellow Kenyans, I want to renew my pledge to you on this fight. I will not turn to the left or right. I will not soft pedal or back pedal, nor be intimidated. I will make no covenants with evildoers, neither will I show mercy to those who rig our markets in order to enrich themselves. As we soldier on in this fight, I today seek the indulgence of our judiciary. And I do so because I strongly believe that no administration in the history of this country has prosecuted corruption cases the way I have done. From ministers to governors, senior government officers, procurement officers, I have been on the front line. And since I respect the principle of separation of powers, I have no power of convicting the accused. We have done our part, and I will continue to do so. Now the judiciary should give us convictions as an indication that we are winning this war. And to that extent, I think it is a shame on our country that we prosecuted a case against drug traffickers in our country and we couldn't get a prosecution. And within a year of them being arraigned in the United States, they have been jailed for no less than 25 years. That is something that our judiciary should come to terms with. That said, I must note that our fight against corruption has given one joyous result, and that is deterrence. Public officers today are now reluctant to engage in corrupt practices because they are indeed afraid. And instead of dealing with corruption after it has happened, our fight against corruption has ensured that we now, today, fight it at source. More must be done, and indeed I direct our National Intelligence Service to undertake a rigorous review of all cartel groupings that have become leeches sucking away at the blood and sweat of hardworking Kenyans. And I want the review to pay particular attention to cartels operating in the public system of budgeting, procurement, regulation, and the illegal rigging of markets. It should also put the agricultural sector under the microscope. And once this review is completed, I further direct that the DCI should take the necessary action, working alongside the Director of Public Prosecutions to confront these cartels with every single instrument available to us. We cannot be a country anymore where those who work hard are robbed of their profit by those who are too lazy to invest and produce. And this is why I am and will continue the fight against corruption to ensure that the fruits of our labor fill every heart with thanksgiving, as indeed stated in our national anthem. I invite all Kenyans to join us, to continue working with us in this most noble effort. Finally, fellow Kenyans, my sixth intent for the next few months is political. We must give ourselves a different political template if we are truly to prosper and not be dragged down every single day by never-ending squabbles. Every so often, I believe, a nation must come together. We in Kenya have done so in Lancaster in the 1960s, leading to the Lancaster Consensus. We did so in the 80s, leading to the removal of Section 2A. We also did the same in 2008. And I believe it is time now also for a new consensus. And this is the aim and objective of the BBI process. In this process of renegotiation, no voice will be wrong, and all must be heard. The process must be inclusive, and it should spell, fellow Kenyans, an end of ethnic majoritarianism, and I believe an end to the winner-take-all politics. Fellow Kenyans, we are on a path, I believe, to end the cycle of election crises, and that is the only way we can win our battle of economic prosperity. And I want to assure all Kenyans, for me, I am not against any single person, but I am for 47 million Kenyans to take the next step forward. I believe that the above actions are just but the beginning, and we will be conversing again in a few months' time. And I want to be held accountable for delivering on the intentions that I have declared. And I want every leader in our country, at every level, to stand and work to make the lives of our people better and indeed much more hopeful. Over the next few months, as I said towards the end of last year, I shall be coming to you with further actions. This work will be carried out by the framework I established last January in 2019 to coordinate and to expedite the implementation of programs and projects with potential to transform the lives of our people. This framework, outlined in the Executive Order number 1 of 2019, provides a structured one government approach to the implementation of national government programs and is intended to enhance efficiency, speed of delivery, and reduce wastage and leakage of public resources. I am indeed pleased to note that under this framework, major progress has been made in unblocking various constraints to delivery, streamlining processes, and fast-tracking implementations in areas such as cargo logistics, contracting, local content and procurement, and processing of payment for works of goods procured by government. I take this opportunity to thank all those cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, governors, regional and county commissioners, and all administrators, and indeed the private sector and other stakeholders who have worked as a team to deliver on these key milestones. So therefore, going forward, and in line with the strategy I have outlined above, and in order to continue enhancing service delivery and make it more efficient, more focused, and better to the Kenyan people, I intend to make certain changes and reorganize government as follows. I have moved the State Department of Cooperatives from the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade, Enterprise Development and Cooperatives to the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, and renamed them as the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives to allow for better management. I have moved the State Department of Youth Affairs from the Ministry of Public Service, Youth, Gender to the Ministry of ICT and Innovations and renamed them as the ministries as the Ministry of Public Service and Gender, and the ICT as the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs. I have also made the following nomination for consideration by the National Assembly. 1. The Honorable Mutahi Kagwe as Cabinet Secretary for Health. Ms. Betty Maina as the Cabinet Secretary for Industrialization. Ambassador John Weru as the Principal Secretary for Trade. Dr. Joan Ouma as the Principal Secretary for Vocational and Technical Training. Ms. Mary Kimonye as the Principal Secretary for Public Service. Ambassador Simon Nabukwesi as the Principal Secretary for University Education and Research. Mr. Solomon Tutungu, Principal Secretary for Transport. Mr. Enoch Mumanyi Onyango as the Principal Secretary for Physical Planning. I have also today reassigned duties of Cabinet Secretaries and Principal Secretaries as follows. 1. Ambassador Rachel A. Omamo as the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs. Ms. Cicely K. Kariuki as the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. The Honorable Peter Munya as the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives. Ambassador Dr. Monica K. Juma as the Cabinet Secretary for Defense. Mr. Simon K. Chelugui, the Cabinet Secretary for Labor. The Honorable Ambassador Ukur K. Yatani, the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Planning. Mr. Joe Okudo, the Principal Secretary for Sports. Dr. Chris Kipto, the Principal Secretary for Environment and Forestry. Dr. Kevin Desai, the Principal Secretary for East African Community. Dr. Margaret W. Mwakima, Principal Secretary for Regional Development. Ms. Esther J. Koimet, Principal Secretary for Broadcasting and Telecommunications. Mr. Peter Kaberia, the Principal Secretary for Mining. Ms. Safina Kwekwe, Principal Secretary for Tourism. Professor Coletta A. Suda, Principal Secretary for Gender. Finally, fellow Kenyans, I have made appointments of the following as Chief Administrative Secretaries: Hussein Dado, the Chief Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government; Patrick Olentutu, Chief Administrative Secretary for Labor and Social Protection; Andrew Timur, Chief Administrative Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation; Abdul Bahari, Chief Administrative Secretary for Devolution and ASAL; Lawrence Karanja, Chief Administrative Secretary for Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development; Peter Odoyo, Chief Administrative Secretary for Defense; Maureen Magoma Mbaka, Chief Administrative Secretary for ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs; Winnie Gushu, Chief Administrative Secretary, the State Law Office; Wavinya Ndeti, Chief Administrative Secretary for Transport; Zakaria Kinuthia Mugure, Chief Administrative Secretary for Education; Mumina Bonaya, Chief Administrative Secretary for Education; Lina Chebi Kelimo, Chief Administrative Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives; Ann Mukami Nyaga, Chief Administrative Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives; Mercy Mwangangi, Chief Administrative Secretary for Health; and finally, Nadia Ahmed Abdallah, Chief Administrative Secretary for ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs. I would want Kenyans to note that 7 of these appointments to the position of Chief Administrative Secretary are young Kenyans, some below the age of 30. These Chief Administrative Secretaries, I hope, will work and indeed understudy their more experienced colleagues in government with the aim of readying themselves to assume senior leadership positions in the near future. I expect that these young trainee ministers, so to speak, will be a model to all their fellow young people and also instill, preach the high ideals of patriotism, excellence in public service, and most importantly, integrity. I congratulate each and every one of them for this appointment, and indeed, I look forward to working with all of them. Fellow Kenyans, as I conclude, let us all stay focused. Let us stop and end meaningless speculation. There is a lot of work that needs to be done. Let us all be guardians of our country's heritage and splendor. And let us love each other and love our country. Asante sana, and God bless you all. Shukran.
Your Excellency, with your permission.
Today, thousands and thousands of Africans and many countries in Africa have conflicts. Notably, from Libya.
Yeah. And Happy New Year to you.
Yeah. Interesting observations you've made on
agriculture. However, I've not heard you speak about the sugar sector. And also the question on milk. The 500 million shillings that you've released, at what prices will the farmers sell their produce? Because their main complaint has been the pricing of that milk. And then secondly, the 16% VAT on milk imports. If you say it's about the East African region, what about allegations of milk coming from elsewhere, being processed in the East African community and finding its way into the country? And lastly, from the cabinet changes that you've mentioned,
otherwise I'll forget the first one.
The last one, the very last one. Yeah. From the cabinet changes that I hear you mention, I've not had Mwangi Kunjuri and Aden Mohammed. Can we conclude that they have exited the cabinet? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I remember all of them. The first one was...
the one on milk?
No, there was another one before that one.
Sugar.
Oh, sugar. The reason we have not mentioned sugar is not that it is not an important part, but as you know, we have set up the Sugar Task Force, and it is indeed my hope that within the next week or so, we shall be meeting with the task force that you know is chaired by Governor Oparanya, and there is also the task force on maize that is chaired by the Governor of Uasin Gishu, and I think whatever we shall be proposing shall be based on us receiving those reports and deliberating so that we can then inform the country. With regard to milk, government does not set prices. What we are doing is making these interventions in the hope of dealing with the glut. And it is our hope that KCC, or through KCC, we will be in a process of being able to buy in a lot more milk and increase the demand, thereby hopefully, which is our intention, see a price increase. That is why we have also taken action to say that since Kenyan milk is charged VAT when it goes across our borders, we will also impose a VAT in order to create fair play and so that we have equal competition. As for milk that comes from outside the country, I think I was very clear that we have done a lot of work in ensuring that that milk is kept out. And I think if you heard in my statement, I specifically referred to the work that the DCI and other agencies are doing to seize all this illegal milk that is coming from outside the system. I think that was in my statement. I was quite clear on that.
Yes.
Then the last one was, no, the ones I haven't mentioned are because they're either in place. If they're not in place, then, yeah, so be it. Kenya moves on. Next question.
Next question, please.
Mr. President, my name is Kevin Mutai from NTV here in Mombasa. I have a question concerning the blue economy. This has been your pilot project. And
Which?
The blue economy.
Yes.
What is your position on the matter in moving forward? And then again, on the issue of bills, they're still growing going on the businesses, and of course again banks are demanding the payments back because of the issue of delayed pending bills. What's your position on that as well?
Let me understand.
The blue economy is just
With regard to the blue economy, we are still very focused on that, and I think there are a number of initiatives that we have already started, especially along the coastal belt. We have also in deep negotiation, hopefully we'll finalize, the issue of how we wanted our sailors to be taken up, and we have already, a huge number have gone, and we want to train even more. Port of Kisumu, of which we are rehabilitating, and hopefully again in a few weeks' time we shall be down there officially launching the newly restructured, rebuilt Kisumu port. We are hoping to also focus ourselves on developing all these fishing ports along our coastline. So these are some of the activities that are there, and I think you'll be hearing a little bit more about them going forward. What was the last question?
The question on the pending bills.
The pending bills, like I said, I think we have made good progress. There are still a good number that I said 80% that were cleared, that 80% of what we had said have already been cleared, the ones that were verifiable. And the rest have been put to a pending bills closing committee for them to be verified in order for them ultimately to be paid. Because it is one thing to say we pay them, but we must also make sure that we are paying for goods and services that were actually delivered. We can't just say we are paying
without verifying. So all the ones that have been verified, 80% of those have been paid, and the balance we hope to clear within a very short period of time. And I want to thank even county governments that have come up and are now focusing themselves on paying those bills. But the ones that are being verified, the ones that need verification, have been put to a pending bills closing committee, and that committee then will verify, and once verified, those then will be eligible for payment.
We'll take the last question, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Apollo K24 Television.
Yes, Apollo.
You've been a major proponent of an improved business environment,
yes,
and also fighting for SMEs. But now traders are arguing you're hurting them with the imposition of the turnover tax or the patriotism tax. What's your take?
You know, at the end of the day, the objective here is got nothing to do with hurting anybody. Yeah? We just want to ensure that every Kenyan is a taxpayer. And this is the system that is not just here in Kenya. It is in most parts of the country, and it has been deemed as the fairest way of ensuring that every single Kenyan participates and pays their share. And I believe what the ministry and KRA has done is to say, well, let's have this imposition, because at 3% we're saying that for every 1,000 bob, for example, you pay 15 bob. All right? And we get rid of all the other small taxes that people were paying before, have a straightforward tax, and look for a way of simplifying it so you can even pay, you know, every day, and then be free of your obligations and not necessarily have people coming, where is your ITR machine, where is this, where is this? So I am strongly of the belief that we will continue to engage, because these are our people. We don't want and we don't intend to harm them. But I believe that as we continue to engage, if we need to change here a little bit there, we will do it through a process of engagement. But ultimately, we are trying to simplify the payment of tax, yeah, which then should actually be much more facilitative to especially our small traders. So I think the point is that need for engagement, yeah. And if indeed we do reach to a stage where we feel that we need to change, we will do it. As I've always said, I am a president who is most open to hear opinions, to hear, you know, if we think we need to change it, tutaongea na tutakubaliana na tutasema, okay, twende namna hii. So mine is just to assure you that it is not supposed to be punitive. It is actually supposed, or the intention was to simplify payment of taxes to especially our small traders.
Okay, sir.
Sophia Ranuna from KTN News. You've touched on the BBI, and you are hailed and applauded by Kenyans across the world for closing ranks with former Prime Minister Raila Odinga when you shook hands, and that's where the BBI was born. But following then, it appears a different new battleground has been opened. So on one hand, you talk about unifying the country and what this is what it's about, but on the other hand, in your own administration, those divisions are beginning to grow, and it's no secret anymore.
I find that to be quite unfortunate, because as far as I'm concerned, I see no division. I have made it very clear from day one, my whole objective in the remaining part of my term is to unify Kenyans. I find it unfortunate that in the process of unifying Kenyans, people feel like they're being left out. And that is why I even said in my statement today, let us use this opportunity to talk with each other, not at each other. Let us not allow competitive politics, which is always what ruins our country, right, to get in the way of dealing with real issues that Kenyans are concerned about. This BBI is not about creating position for this person. I don't know what we're talking about. We're talking about how do we have better governance? How do we deal with corruption in our country? How do we deal with youth unemployment? How do we deal with creating a feeling of equity and fairness so that after every election, we don't have to fight each other. We can all be winners after an election. Why don't we look at those things that are positive for our country, instead of always focusing ourselves on the competitive aspect, if I go this way, will I win, will I lose? Kenyans are not interested in that.
Yeah.
Kenyans are interested in their prosperity, and that is where I am. So therefore, I am not for anybody, as I said in my statement. I am not against anybody. I am for 47 million Kenyans, and it is my hope that all political leaders will start to focus and say, let's work together. Let's get this thing going. Let's make Kenya a better country. Next question.
Mr. President, briefly.
You've asked your question.
The
Next
elephant in
one.
the room. Whether you're seeking term extension.
Si nyinyi ndio mnaongea. Mimi nilisema yangu na nikamaliza. Endelee kuongea
Good morning, His Excellency.
Yes.
My question is on, my name is Purity Musel from the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.
Yes, Purity.
My question is on the youth and unemployment. I do understand that you've, it's now not anymore in the gender affairs, it's on the Minister of ICT. But during your 2013 and 17 campaigns, you were very adamant and promising job opportunities to young people out here, about 1 million. But that promise seems to be yet
I think this is why you have seen that move to ICT, because I believe that is where the future is. I believe that's where the jobs, are. And by putting the two together, I believe we can be much more focused in terms of dealing with this huge problem of ICT, because it is under there that we're doing all these constituency ICT hubs, which we hope now will be able to give opportunity for our young people, to get online work and things like that. So I think there is a good marriage between ICT, where I believe the future lies in terms of job prospects, together with youth, where we are trying to deal with this huge unemployment problem. Kwa hayo machache na mengi nasema Mungu awabariki, Mungu awalinde.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Asante sana, Your Excellency. Where?
Viewers, good morning. This morning I want to address the issue of Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. The legacy of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya keeps on moving, keeps on going forward and forward. Since the handshake in 2018 that brought about the peace, the tranquility, the unity of purpose, President Uhuru's star has been rising. All over Africa, people are thinking of using the model that Kenya used to stop any form of violence, chaos on the streets after elections. As you know, all of you are aware that elections in Africa produce two things: after or before or after the voting. Disputed elections, winner takes it all, loser doesn't accept the results. But the Kenyan model takes us miles and miles away from the normal type of democracy. The democracy, a negotiated format, a consensus format. A democracy that gives consensus a chance. A democracy that talks about the future of a country, the unity of a country, as opposed to a fragmented country, polarized country, where most African countries find themselves in. We have seen in the last 10 years or so, most of the elections in Africa have been contested by the opposition. Very few people in Africa, countries in Africa, where opposition has conceded defeat and come up to congratulate the winner. We have seen the South African model has worked very well. The Ghanaian model has worked so well. I don't see any other country in Africa where the models have worked well. I thought it would be Sierra Leone, but today we see Sierra Leone going back to the same ethnic tensions, as you can see from the reports that are circulating in the international media and the local media. So elections in Africa are contentious issues. They create a contentious position, create a departing point for the people of Africa, of that particular nation. The legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta, therefore, will be remembered for having brought the tranquility that we have today, the peace, the new format, the new tool of having a better organized civil Africa, an Africa without violence, an Africa without chaos after elections, when the opposition accepts to work for the interests of a nation, not personal interests. This has worked in Kenya, and thank you very much, Your Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, for the tenacity and the steadfastness that you have guided this handshake up to today. For those who want to mutilate the handshake, belittle the handshake, one lesson they should learn is to look at Libya. Libya was once a territory we all respected. It is no more. Let's keep the handshake and the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Thank you.
Launching the BBI Task Force report. Makofi.
Your Excellency, I am very happy that the document, the recommendations and the proposals that have been put forward informs us on how to build institutions to get our politics away from personalities and ethnicities to institutions that will carry all of us irrespective of who we are, where we come from, the language we speak, or the political party we subscribe to.
Kusema ya kwamba pesa mingi ije mashinani, tunaunga mkono. Ipelekwe mpaka ifike kama kuanzia 35% kuelekea juu. Hiyo pesa itumike kwa mambo ya maendeleo, not for consumption. Recurrent expenditure should not be above 30%. 70% should go for development.
Ni kwa nini baada ya kila miaka mitano tunaenda mitatu ya kazi, miaka ya 2 tunapoteza kwa sababu siasa imechacha? Tunataka tuulize wafanyabiashara wetu wenzetu, ni nini inawazuia? Ni nini tuwaweza kufanya ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba biashara zenu hazisimami? We must have development plans that are 20 years plus if we are to resolve our problems, my brothers and sisters. Tunataka tuwapatie assurance ya kwamba wanaweza kupatia wananchi mikopo ya miaka 10, miaka 15, kwa sababu they have confidence ya kwamba Kenya will be stable and Kenya will always have leadership, whoever it is.
Associated to 2022 elections have dominated the political arena in Kenya for years and months now. President Uhuru Kenyatta in the recent past has warned people not to engage in politics, but engage in nation building and development. As much as the president has given these warnings, the people have not heeded to the warnings. The objective of improving the lives of Kenyans is the most important thing that you need to have. Kenyans need to have their lives improved. Kenyans need development instead of campaigns. Kenyans don't eat campaigns. Kenyans need health care, good housing, industries, jobs for younger generation, and above all, infrastructure to be able to transport the goods that they manufacture and the goods that crops that they grow for export. It is therefore very important for the people of Kenya to understand that with development lacking, the country will not prosper. President Uhuru Kenyatta has emphasized again that the only thing that can bring Kenya to a world-standing nation, a developing nation, is prosperity through unity of purpose. If you are not united, you cannot deliver to what other people, other nations went through and got united. Look at Germany, for example. It had a lot of anger after the Second World War. But today, Germany gives us the loans that we share, that we Google. You Google a company in German and you get what you want. We also global their money, hammer it, eat it every day. Some of us through corruption, some of us through extended kickbacks. But Germany had more anger than any other country in the world after the Second World War. Today, it's a healed country. The only message that Kenyans can take from here is a redemption strategy. The only thing that can heal this country is redemption, forgiveness, reconciliation, restitution, and reparations. And above all, truth-telling and accountability that will bring about the word redemption, which is healing. So for now, those who want to have a better Kenya tomorrow, begin the journey now. 1 inch by inch, move together with your president. The nation will be a great nation. Thank you.
With regard to corruption, we will continue to fight. Regardless of what will be said and done, we will fight. And we will fight, and we intend to fight and win. And it is unfortunate that sometimes this is politicized also. But as I said, this is a fight that Kenya must win. Because if we can't create not just a fair environment, but a stable environment, it must also then be transparent. So that once you do your business, you know what you need to do, how you're going to do about it. So your business succeeds not on the basis of who you know, but how you do your business. That should be really what all of us should be focused on. Your business should not succeed or fail based on which government is in power. Right? It should be on the basis of the plans and the programs that you have as business people and what your business plan is. And that should be the basis of rating success. And this will happen. This will happen. It will be difficult. It will be noisy. But it will happen. It will happen. It will happen because there's no going back. And this is an agenda I just want to be very, very, very clear about.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting all the way from Nairobi, the Republic of Kenya. Viewers, wherever you are in Africa, this is our Plan African station, a station that looks at African issues, what ails Africa, what kills Africa. How can we resolve our own problems without inviting any other person to come to this continent to bring us more headache? Do we have a lot of headache? Do we have progress? This time is Kenya. In Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta has brought what we call a transformational agenda, an agenda that is going to take shape, that can bring Kenya by 2022 to world-class economy, to world-class health people, a universal health care, to world-class food security, to world-class affordable housing, and to increasing jobs through manufacturing and construction of houses. President Uhuru Kenyatta has stated that this is the most important aspect of his legacy, that he would like to leave a legacy in Kenya by having these items tackled. You in the county, wherever you are in this country, those representatives of ours, of the ones that are in those counties, one by one, wherever you were, in Kakamega, in Bungoma, in Turkana, in Moyale, in Mosabit, in Mandera, in Coast, most of you know what we want to be done. We want to find out exactly, and other places, Taveta, Migori, Siaya, Kisumu, Eldoret, which is North UG, which is also Narok. We want to know what is supposed to be done. What can be done to change the lives of the people of those counties and other counties in Kenya? What can we do to change, to help the governors, the local people, the citizens? What can we do to improve our housing? What can we do to improve our food security, to have enough food such that the food can never be a problem to Africa at all? Year in, year out, or year out, year in, we are begging for donors to bring us relief food. Yet we have arable land that is underutilized. Why can't we look at the arable land and start changing methods of farming, methods, tools? How much do we need to change our food production? Britain is a quarter of this country, but Britain has enough food to keep itself for over 200 to 400 years. Our food storage, do we need to look at it? Our food preservation, do we need to look at it? To improve food security, you need to talk about all these things. And that's why President Uhuru Kenyatta has said, let's talk about them. Let's tackle them now, so that by 2022, we leave a legacy for others who will take politically the train and the leadership of this country, going on that route. Instead, what has happened in Kenya, people are not thinking of the Agenda 4. Is it because the Big 4 action plan, people don't know what they are supposed to do? Is it because the research is not enough? What is the value that you can get out of a good house? What is the value that you can get if the industry is near your home? How many of us think of creating some small cottage industries, fishing, ponds, creating a simple pond and getting fish that will grow in the pond? How many of us can think of good health care? How can we change our health care system in Kenya? How can it be changed? Can it be changed by merely all the time saying, this is what we want? Or can it be done in a different way? To think, to bring in such that every 50 to 100,000 people have got a doctor and a GP who can have a referral system to refer them to diseases that cannot be treated in those small clinics or small GPs, which are many hospitals. The onus is upon us upon the people of Kenya, wherever they are, with the help of any other people. Our role as a television station and the media is to publicize these initiatives of the president. We publicize the media, tell it as it is, writing in digital platform, writing on our Facebook. Our numbers, several representatives all over the whole counties are busy as we talk, writing and talking about the Big Four. They are busy engaging in the Big Four activities to make sure that advocacy, campaign, publicity, to make sure that people are aware. We talk about food security. You can't have food security when you are cutting down all the trees. There will be no water. You can't have food security when you don't know whether there's water or this water is alkaline. When you see rhinos being transferred from place where water was not alkaline and taken to alkaline infested waters and they die, there is something wrong with the systems. So we need to come and talk about these things. We need to engage the citizens for them to choose what is available and what they want in their counties. Punchline Africa TV, therefore, engages the people every morning until the next coming several months. We shall be engaging people. We shall be talking about this Big Four. I now invite you to a clip that talks about the Big Four of the Jubilee administration. What can we do, and what can we do as citizens of Africa to help ourselves so that we don't get into a quagmire state that other countries find when they call for food, when they call for housing, when you see in South Africa, in Kenya, the slums mushrooming, Gorogocho, in Mathare, in all these places. What can we do to elevate the lives of the people in those slum-affected areas? I invite you to the clip prepared by Punchline Africa TV as a matter of publicity for this Big Four.